Hi, I'm Rebecca Velasquez, holistic psychotherapist and yoga and meditation teacher. I'm back at Kowakan Karate Do with Sensei Rhodes. Since my last video, I've been doing karate for the past 6 weeks, twice a week. And it's been a joy, and I can't tell you how much I've learned. There's so much eye-hand coordination that goes into karate, I had no idea. And I was also thinking about the paradox. You know, I originally said, I don't want to learn to fight, I'm a yogi. And, the more I've learned is that it's not about fighting, it's learning to fight so you don't have to fight. It's about self-defense, it's about empowerment, especially for women. It's so empowering to be able to be here and train with you, and I can't recommend you more as a teacher. So we have a really exciting demonstration, and without further ado, I will let Sensei Rhodes introduce the demonstration.
Great.
Thank you.
So we're going to do a gun disarm, a handgun disarm. A couple provisos here. This is not to be trifled with. We use these as an exercise. My fondest hope is that you never have somebody with a handgun in your face, because that's not a good situation. But there are some lessons that can be learned with this, and who knows, you may have to use it. If you do, you need to practice these techniques dozens, if not hundreds of times, so that it becomes second nature. So I've got one of my students here, Mr. Khalil Despi, is going to be our bad guy, and I've got a rubber handgun, and I'm going to show you a couple ways of disarming. So I'll hand this to him. So he's a bad guy. If he were a smart guy, in fact, let me borrow this. If I were smart, here's how you hold a person at bay with a handgun, is to take about 6 or 8 feet off and just say, stay where you are, get on the ground. But usually if I'm a mugger, this is my power and I want to intimidate you. So I'm going to hold this gun right here until I see you start quaking in your boots or handing me your wallet or what have you. So we're going to assume that he's a dumb mugger, and he's got the gun right in my face. So there are a number of different ways of disarming. I'll save the most complicated but the most effective way for last. So one thing I have to be concerned about is not having somebody behind me. So one way of averting that is to come over the top. So I have to do 2 things simultaneously. I've got to get this out of the way. His reaction time is slower than my action time. So I've got to get him to think that I'm complying, and then boom. But I can't do this because he's just going to reposition. So I've got to do this. I've got to get control over his arm and the weapon. And I fold this back, and then I peel the weapon out of his hand like so. And it looks pretty simple. It is if you practice dozens of times. The fancy way that you see it done, and again, not so easy, is here, just like so. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting the wrist with a chop, and I'm coming across the barrel of the weapon like so, and the tube just snaps it out like so. So that's pretty fancy. If he has a gun in my back, I don't know if he's got it in his right hand or his left hand. If I'm a betting man, I'm going to say right hand. It works both ways, but for the most part, I want to be behind him. So I want to come this way like so, and basically get control over the weapon, control over him. This is a very uncomfortable position. I can basically turn him and take him to the ground. Somewhere along the way, I've got to get this weapon out of his hand, but at least I've gotten out of the way beyond the fire. So finally, the fancier way, so he's got the weapon here. What I need to do, again, is get out of the line of fire. I've got to make sure there's nobody behind me here, because I'm going to turn like so. I've got my back to you, I understand. Turn like so. Get my hand under the weapon here. I'm going to make 2 180 turns on the weapon. As I step through, I'm going to flip the gun over. Notice how it's twisted him in this awkward position. And then I'm going to flip the weapon over again. And that torsion is going to put so much pressure on his hand that it will just pop right out of his hand like so. Especially when it happens in real time, it's like this. Here, here. And it comes right out of his hand. Not so easy again unless you've done it dozens of times. There's some who argue that you should not be doing gun disarms if you don't know how to use a weapon. I don't necessarily agree, because as far as I'm concerned, this isn't a gun per se. It's a blunt instrument that once I've removed it, I'm not going to rack a round and shoot him. I'm going to maybe whack him over the head with it, but I want to just remove the threat. I don't want to kill somebody just because they're being an idiot. So that's the essential message right there. Practice. Let's hope we never have to use it for real. And that's it. So, arigatou. Thank you again, Mr. Despi and Ms. Velasquez.
Thank you so much. And I also wanted to know about knife disarming. We had talked about that a while ago too.
It's many of the same kinds of techniques. Problem with a knife, of course, it is always loaded.
Right.
There's an old saying, if you're ever in a knife fight, you're going to get cut. So you've got to control, let's say for a moment this is a knife. I've got to get control over the knife and your hand. I can't grab it here, obviously. I'm going to get cut. So I've got to get control of your wrist and then maybe do a takeout like that. But again, not fun to contemplate, but many of the same
Only
kinds
if you
of
absolutely need to do it. Don't do it at home.
Exactly. Don't do it. Yeah, don't play with kitchen knives with the kids. Okay.
Anyway, thank you so much. So I'm just also thinking what I want the audience to know is that karate is really a wellness practice, strengthening mind, body, spirit. Our mind, body, spirit.
The fundamental principle of a traditional karate is you're learning fighting techniques, as you mentioned, so you don't have to fight. You know, Karate Do is a philosophy, it's a way of life. It's a way of carrying yourself, it's learning to be confident, and it's knowing that you can defend yourself, and as such, you will convey that in such a manner that many people won't even bother you because they can kind of pick up that sense of something about this person, I don't want to mess with them.
Right.
So it is a body, mind, and spirit undertaking. And that's why I did this.
And being able to defend those that you love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You use it if you need it. We don't ever use karate aggressively. We use it for personal development and for helping others. Funikoshi said it, you know, karate is an instrument of justice, which is an interesting way of looking at it. I'm
really starting to understand that. So tell us about your website.
Website, koikanslow.com, easier to find, slow karate, SLOKARATE.com, and shows the schedule. Get a couple free lessons. I teach kids classes and adult classes. We have several black belts here. Koikan has been here in San Luis Obispo for 25 years. We're a small dojo, but very strong. We have people of very good character, and they will take good care of you. You'll learn some life lessons and some good discipline. Get yourself in shape, body, mind, and spirit. Please come.
Absolutely. And my website is www.rebeccarvelasquez.com. I will be doing more wellness videos.
Great.
And arigashimasu.
Arigashimasu.
Still learning how to say that.
That's quite all right.
Thank you so much. Take care.